Okay, let's dive in. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So, if you're trying to learn English, you've almost certainly heard this advice. Watch movies and TV shows. It sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Combine entertainment with education?
Hmm.
What could possibly be better? Sounds like the perfect plan.
Exactly. Curl up on the sofa, maybe grab some popcorn, binge watch your favorite series, and boom, fluency just happens.
Uh-huh. If only it were quite that simple.
Right.
Mhm.
Because for so many learners, it just doesn't quite work like that. You put in the hours, maybe you're watching with subtitles, maybe bravely without,
Hmm.
and you still find yourself totally lost when a native speaker starts talking at, normal speed, that fast-flowing kind of connected English. It can just sound like, well, noise sometimes.
It's such a common frustration. We hear it all the time. The resource itself, movies, TV, it's fantastic. It's everywhere. But just like passively watching, it's often not enough.
No, not for really training your ear or getting confident speaking.
Exactly. You need a method. You need a way to turn that screen time into genuinely effective learning time, especially for understanding that fast speech and then eventually producing it yourself.
Absolutely. Because you can read subtitles all day long, and yeah, you'll pick up some vocab, maybe some phrases,
Sure.
but really understanding the sound of natural, everyday English and then feeling like you can make those sounds, that takes specific techniques.
And that's precisely what our source material for this deep dive gives us.
Yeah.
It lays out a clear, really actionable strategy, how to use movies and TV shows not just as entertainment, but as really powerful English learning tools.
Moving from just watching to actually doing active, targeted practice.
That's the core idea.
So our mission today is to walk you through that strategy step by step. We're going to cover first how to pick the content that's actually right for your specific level. That's key.
Crucial.
Then we'll dive into a really specific, quite powerful exercise for training your ear to finally understand that fast, natural speech.
That's connected speech part, yeah.
We'll show you the right way to use subtitles so they're actually helping you learn, not holding you back.
Using them as a tool, not just a crutch.
And finally, we'll explore how you can actually use these shows to practice and improve your own speaking skills, your pronunciation, your fluency.
So essentially, we're taking the fun of movie night and layering on the structure of a really effective language lesson, being strategic with your downtime.
Ready to make your next Netflix session or movie night a genuine learning experience?
Let's do it. Where should we start?
Okay, first things first. And this sounds almost too basic, but it's where so many learners stumble, choosing the right content.
Yeah, it seems obvious, but it's foundational. People hear watch movies and they jump straight into, I don't know, the latest Marvel movie or a really complex HBO drama.
Right. Something designed purely for native speakers, packed with action, maybe complex plot twists, tons of slang, really fast dialogue.
And that's often just, it's a recipe for frustration, isn't it? If the content is way too far above your current level, you spend all your mental energy just trying to figure out what on earth is
So
happening.
you're pausing every 5 seconds to look up a word.
Exactly. You can't focus on how the language is being used,
Hmm.
the sounds, the rhythm, the common phrases, because you're just struggling to keep your head above water with the basic plot.
Mm.
It feels overwhelming and honestly not very fun.
And then there's the other side of the coin, if it's too easy.
Right. If you pick something, say, you already know really well,
Hmm.
or that uses language far below your level, you're not really challenging yourself. You're comfortable, sure, which feels nice,
Hmm.
but you're not pushing into new territory. You're not encountering new vocabulary and context or getting exposed to grammatical structures or pronunciation challenges that you haven't mastered yet. No challenge, not much learning.
So the key, as our source material really emphasizes, is finding that sweet spot.
The Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. Not too hard, not too easy, where you understand enough to follow the main story, to stay engaged, stay motivated.
But there's still plenty of new language, new expressions, maybe challenging accents or faster bits that push you to grow.
Okay, so how do we find this sweet spot? The source gives a pretty practical breakdown based on proficiency levels. Let's unpack that. For beginners, where should they start looking?
Right. For beginners, the absolute priority should be clarity, simplicity, and predictability. The source strongly recommends animated movies.
Like Disney or Pixar.
Exactly. Think about films like Toy Story or Finding Nemo or maybe Frozen. The voice actors in these films usually speak with incredibly clear, often a slightly exaggerated pronunciation.
You can really hear each sound.
Yes. And the dialogue tends to be pretty straightforward. The plots are visually driven, which gives you loads of context clues even if you miss some words. You see what's happening, which helps you guess the meaning. Plus, they often repeat key phrases or themes.
That makes total sense. The animation itself is doing some of the heavy lifting for comprehension. What about live action stuff for beginners?
Yeah, the source suggests sitcoms, but specifically those known for focusing on everyday, relatable conversations. Friends is the classic example everyone mentions.
Still popular for learners.
It really is. Now, okay, Friends has its share of, 90s pop culture references and jokes that might go over your head initially,
Sure.
but the core dialogue, it revolves around pretty simple daily life things. Making plans, talking about relationships, complaining about work, ordering coffee. The sentence structures are generally not too complex.
Stuff you might actually want to talk about yourself.
Precisely. Modern Family is another good one mentioned. It's got those family situations, very clear character types, and again, conversations rooted in common experiences. It models that everyday interaction style.
Okay, so animation and relatable sitcoms. What about for, say, absolute beginners, just starting out?
For those really just starting, the source points towards shows actually designed for young native-speaking children. Think Peppa Pig or Bluey.
Right, the ones with very short episodes.
Exactly. And you might think, oh, a children's show. But honestly, these are gold mines for foundational English. The vocabulary is super basic and repeated constantly. The grammar is simple, the pronunciation is crystal clear, often slower, and crucially, like you said, the episodes are really short, maybe 5 to 7 minutes.
So you can watch one multiple times without it feeling like a huge task.
Yes, that repetition is key at the beginning. You can
Yeah.
watch it, then maybe watch it again with subtitles, then again without. You can really absorb those basic sentence patterns and core vocabulary. The benefits are huge. Maximum clarity, simple structures, easy repetition, low time commitment per episode.
Okay, great starting points for beginners. Now let's level up. What about intermediate learners? What kind of content opens up for them?
At the intermediate stage, you're ready for more natural sounding speech. Things get a bit faster, a bit more complex. The source suggests moving into TV dramas, but ones that still feature relatively natural conversations, not, overly stylized or dense dialogue.
So not necessarily Shakespeare.
Haha. Probably not quite yet. Examples given include things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office, U.S. version usually.
Yeah.
These shows have realistic banter, you hear workplace idioms, the exchanges are faster than a beginner sitcom.
Right, more like real colleagues talking.
Exactly. But the context, the office setting, the police precinct, provides really clear situational clues. And the language, while faster and more natural, is still generally accessible. You understand the situation, which helps you decode the language.
I can see how that works. You're hearing how people actually talk, the ums and ahs, the interruptions, but within a framework you can understand.
Precisely. Light comedies also become a really good fit here. Think The Big Bang Theory. Okay, it has some specific scientific jargon thrown in for laughs.
Sheldon's vocabulary, yeah.
But the core comedy, the character interactions, they're mostly based on relatable social situations, dating, friendships. How I Met Your Mother is another one mentioned. It uses natural conversation, but also plays with things like flashbacks and different narrative voices, so you get exposure to slightly more varied language use without it being overwhelmingly difficult.
Interesting. And the source also mentioned reality shows for intermediate learners. That surprised me a bit.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. Shows like MasterChef or The Great British Bake Off or maybe even some home renovation shows.
How do those help specifically?
Well, think about it. While there's some specific vocabulary related to the topic cooking terms, baking techniques, types of wood, a huge chunk of the dialogue is spontaneous, unscripted conversation.
Ah, right. Contestants talking under pressure, judges giving feedback off the cuff.
Exactly. You hear people talking naturally, complete with hesitations, interruptions, false starts, natural intonation, different regional accents sometimes. It's fantastic practice for understanding authentic, unrehearsed English. It's a different kind of listening challenge than following a polished script.
That's a really good point. You're tuning into genuine, everyday conversation flow, not just actors delivering lines.
That's the main benefit there for intermediate learners. It bridges the gap towards understanding completely unscripted, real-world talk.
Okay. And then for the advanced learners, it sounds like the gloves come off.
Pretty much. At the advanced level, you should be aiming to handle faster speech, much more complex vocabulary, abstract concepts, irony, sarcasm, and a really wide range of accents and speaking styles.
So what kind of content fits the bill?
The source recommends movies known for rapid-fire dialogue or dense, technical, or complex language. So think films like Inception with its complex plot explanations, or The Social Network, famous for Aaron Sorkin's super-fast overlapping dialogue.
Movies where you really have to focus just to keep up, even as a native speaker sometimes.
Right. They demand a high level of listening comprehension, not just for vocabulary, but for processing speed and understanding intricate arguments or plot points delivered quickly.
News programs and documentaries were also mentioned.
Absolutely. Things like BBC News, CNN, PBS documentaries, or talks like TED Talks, these are invaluable for advanced learners.
Why specifically?
You get exposed to more formal language, journalistic structures, academic vocabulary, sophisticated arguments on complex topics. You encounter a huge variety of accents from reporters and experts around the world. The topics can range from politics and science to history and philosophy, providing a massive amount of specialized vocabulary learned naturally in context.
And finally, TV dramas known for really complex, layered dialogue.
Yes, shows like Breaking Bad or Sherlock, or maybe something like The West Wing if you like political drama. These often feature intricate plots, very nuanced character interactions.
Subtext.
Exactly. Subtext, metaphor, highly specific vocabulary related to their themes: chemistry, crime, deduction, politics. It requires understanding not just the literal meaning of the words, but the implications, the tone, the unspoken messages. It's about comprehending communication on multiple levels.
The payoff seems huge there. A really deep exposure to challenging and diverse language, pushing both vocabulary and understanding of complex ideas and how they're expressed.
Definitely. You're getting closer to native-level comprehension across various genres and styles.
Okay, so we have these great suggestions for different levels. But how do you, the listener, actually figure out if a specific show you're thinking of watching fits into that perfect sweet spot for you personally? The source gives a really handy rule of thumb.
It's a very practical test, yeah. The idea is pick a show or movie you're considering. Find a short clip, maybe just a minute or two of dialogue, and watch it without any subtitles first. Just listen.
Okay, first pass, no help.
Right. And the guideline is, if you can understand roughly 50% to 70% of what's being said on that first listen, it's probably a good fit for your current learning level.
50 to 70%. Why that specific range? What if you understand less than 50%?
If you're catching less than half the dialogue, it's likely too difficult right now. You'll probably be guessing too much. You might lose the plot thread completely.
Frustrating.
Very. And crucially, it will be really hard to figure out why you missed things, even when you turn the subtitles on later. There are just too many unknown elements: vocab, grammar, speed, pronunciation, all hitting you at once. It leads to overwhelm, not effective learning.
Okay, and what if you understand more than 70% on that first listen?
Well, that's great for comprehension practice, but it might be a bit too easy for learning and pushing your skills forward significantly. You're not encountering enough new language or challenging sentence structures or pronunciation hurdles. You'll be comfortable, which is fine sometimes.
But not optimal for growth.
Exactly. That 50–70% range hits the sweet spot because you understand enough to grasp the context, follow the gist, and stay motivated. You're not totally lost, but there's still a substantial chunk, 30 to 50%, that's challenging you. It contains the new words, the faster speech, the tricky bits that you need to focus on to improve.
It's that zone of optimal challenge. Hard enough to learn, easy enough not to quit.
Perfectly put. So as you're browsing tonight or thinking about what to watch next, try that little test. 1 minute, no subtitles. Does it feel like you're getting the main idea, but definitely missing bits and pieces? That's probably your sign.
Excellent practical advice. Choosing the right content really is that necessary foundation. It sets you up for success.
It ensures you're working with language that's challenging but ultimately manageable.
Okay, so you've used the 57% rule. You've found your show and movie. Now let's tackle what is arguably the biggest hurdle for so many learners. Understanding that fast, natural, connected English, this is where the frustration often really peaks.
Oh, it really is. You spend time in classrooms learning English, spoken slowly, clearly. Maybe you use apps where each word is pronounced perfectly, distinctly.
Right, like what's is your name.
Exactly. And then you turn on a movie and someone says, "What's your name?" And it sounds like one long, incredibly fast, continuous stream of sound.
They don't pause between words. Sounds change completely. Words seem to get swallowed or disappear. It's totally different from the isolated words you learn from a list or a textbook.
And that's the reality of spoken language, isn't it? Native speakers, we don't speak word by word. We naturally connect words together. We reduce sounds. Sometimes we drop sounds entirely. We blend things. It's all about flow and efficiency in communication.
Can you give some common examples of that?
Sure, think about really common phrases. Going to almost always becomes gonna in casual speech. Want to becomes wanna, kind of morphs into kinda. Have to often sounds like have to.
Okay, those are pretty well-known ones.
Right, but it goes much deeper. Think about questions. What do you think? In fast speech, that's very likely to sound like what I think. The do you reduces right down.
Okay.
Or did you see it? Might sound like did you see it? The D and Y sounds blend together. Could've, would have, should have often become coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Right, could have gone, should have done it.
Exactly. Little function words get reduced and linked all the time. Prepositions like of cup of tea becomes cup of tea, or to I have to go becomes I have to go. Articles like or en often get squished onto the word before or after. For a minute might sound like fair a minute.
Wow. So the individual sounds you might have learned perfectly in isolation can change dramatically when they're strung together in a real sentence spoken at normal speed.
Precisely. And your ear, your brain, needs specific training to recognize these linked and reduced forms, not just the dictionary pronunciation of each word. Just passively watching, even with subtitles on, often doesn't provide this training effectively.
Why not, if the subtitles are there?
Because your brain, being efficient, tends to rely on the easier path, which is reading the text. You see the words, what do you want to do, and you read them, but your ear might not be actively processing and decoding the what I want to do sound stream effectively, because the answer is right there visually.
Makes sense. You're reading, not truly listening and analyzing the sound.
Often, yes, but there's a really powerful technique highlighted in our source material, a specific 3-step listening exercise designed precisely to train your ear for this fast, connected speech. And the key is working intensely with a very short clip.
Quality over quantity again.
Exactly. Forget trying to analyze a whole episode this way. You take a tiny segment, maybe just 10 to 15 seconds. Find a moment with a couple of sentences of natural dialogue, and you work with that specific clip repeatedly.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1. Listen to that short 10-15-second clip without any subtitles at all. Turn them off completely.
And the goal here is?
The goal is not to understand everything. Not at all. This is just your first pass. Try to get a feel for the rhythm, the speed, the overall soundscape. Can you pick out any familiar words? Even just one or two. It's about establishing a baseline. What can your ear catch on its own, unfiltered?
Okay, so don't get discouraged if it sounds like a jumbled mess at first. That's kind of the point.
Absolutely normal, even expected. Then comes step 2. Listen to the exact same short clip again, but this time, turn on the English subtitles.
Ah, okay. English subtitles, not native language ones.
Critically important, English subtitles. Because this is where the magic happens. This is the aha moment the source talks about. You hear the sounds that maybe sounded jumbled in step 1, and simultaneously you see the actual English words written on the screen.
Your brain starts connecting the sound stream to the text.
Precisely. And this step is absolutely crucial for consciously noticing how native speakers link those words and reduce those sounds. Let's go back to that example. What do you want to do tonight?
Okay. In step 1, I might have just heard, what do you want to do tonight? Kind of blurry.
Right. But now, in step 2, you hear, what do I want to do tonight? And you see, what do you want to do tonight? Written clearly. And that mismatch, that discrepancy, that is the learning moment.
You see what to and hear what to. You see want to and hear wanna.
Yes. You actively make the connection. You start to build a mental map. Ah, okay, that's how what do you sounds in fast speech. Or that's the sound of going to becoming gonna. You pay attention to those little words, how of sounds in cup of tea, how him sounds in tell 'em. Tell 'em.
So you're training your ear to recognize the patterns of natural reduction and linking. You're essentially learning the sound rules of fast English.
Exactly. This second listen with English subtitles isn't just about checking comprehension, it's an active analysis. It's like a mini lesson in practical English phonetics, showing you the reality of how the language is delivered naturally.
Okay, that makes sense. What's step 3?
Step 3. Listen to the exact same short clip one more time, but turn the subtitles off again.
Ah, back to pure listening.
Yes. Now that your brain has seen the words, made the connections between text and sound, identified the what I wanna pattern, can you actually hear it clearly without the visual aid? Can you now recognize those connected forms purely from the sound?
It's like a test of whether the lesson from step 2 actually stuck.
Precisely. And the source emphasizes, you should repeat this entire 3-step cycle, listen without, listen with English subs, listen without again for that same short 10-15 second clip, Do it maybe 3, 4, 5 times.
Over and over.
Over and over until you feel like you can understand most, if not all, of that short sentence purely from listening. Until you can clearly hear and recognize those previously confusing connected forms.
It sounds intense, focusing so much on just 10 seconds.
It is intense, but that focused, repeated practice is incredibly effective. It forces your brain to stop glossing over the sounds and really process the details of natural speech. The lengths, the reductions, the rhythm that makes it challenging initially.
Like tuning a radio receiver to the right frequency?
That's a great analogy. You're fine-tuning your auditory processing for the specific nuances of real spoken English flow.
Yeah.
And doing this regularly, even just with 1 or 2 short clips a day, can dramatically improve your overall ability to understand native speakers talking at natural speed.
It starts turning that overwhelming blur of sound into recognizable chunks and patterns.
And crucially, it builds confidence. Because you start to realize, okay, it's not that I can't understand this stuff, it's that I hadn't been trained to hear the language as it's actually spoken. This method provides exactly that training.
That's a fantastic, concrete exercise for listening. So let's talk more broadly about subtitles now. We touched on using English subs in that exercise, but what's the general advice? Because let's be real, it's so tempting to just leave subtitles on all the time, maybe even in your own language.
Oh, absolutely. It feels comfortable. It ensures you don't miss the plot. But that's the trap, isn't
The
it?
subtitle trap.
Exactly. If you always watch with subtitles, especially subtitles in your native language, your brain gets, well, maybe efficient is kinder than lazy. It defaults to reading. Reading is usually faster and requires less mental effort than decoding the complex sound waves of a foreign language.
So you end up practicing your reading skills in your native language, or maybe reading English, but your actual listening comprehension skills can hit a plateau.
Precisely. The subtitles become a crutch. They prevent your listening muscles from getting the workout they need to get stronger.
But they can be useful, right, if used correctly.
Absolutely. If used strategically, subtitles, specifically English subtitles, are an incredibly powerful learning tool. Our source material outlines a really effective method for leveraging them.
Okay, how does that work? Does it start with subtitles on or off?
This method actually starts with them on. Step 1. Watch a scene or a longer section of your chosen show with English subtitles turned on first.
English subtitles again. Why start with them on this time?
This is different from the 3-step listening exercise, where subtitles were used in the middle to check comprehension. Here, on the first viewing of a new scene, you're using the English subtitles as a primary support tool.
Okay, what benefits does that give?
Several key things happen simultaneously. First, yes, it aids basic comprehension. If there's a word or phrase you completely miss, you can see it written. But more importantly, you are constantly building that crucial bridge between the English sounds you're hearing and the English text you're seeing.
Connecting sound and spelling in real time.
Exactly. You hear the a-ed ending on a regular past tense verb, and you see it spelled a-day. You might hear a tricky word, and seeing it spelled out helps solidify it in your mind. You're actively linking the phonetics to the orthography.
And it must be great for picking up new vocabulary and expressions too, right?
Definitely. You see a word or an idiom you don't know used in a natural context. Because you have the written form right there, you can easily pause and look it up or make a note of it to check later. Seeing it used in the flow of a real conversation helps you understand its meaning and usage far better than just seeing it in a vocabulary list.
So this first watch with English subtitles is about understanding what's being said, what the words are, and making that critical sound-to-text connection.
Precisely. Then comes step 2. Watch the exact same scene or section again, maybe the next day or right after, but this time without any subtitles at all. Turn them off.
Ah, okay, so now it's pure listening practice again.
Yes. Your brain has already processed the meaning, you've seen the tricky words, you've made the sound-text connections in step 1. So now your brain can dedicate all its resources to just listening, to deciphering the sounds without that visual safety net. It forces your ear to do the active work of recognition.
Taking the training wheels off, like you said before, you know the route, the meaning. Now you practice navigating it just by listening.
Exactly. This reinforces the ear training we talked about earlier, but applied to a longer stretch of content.
And is there a third step to this subtitle strategy?
Yes. Step 3 brings in active production. Use that same section for shadowing practice.
We keep coming back to shadowing.
Because it's so effective. Once you've watched the scene with English subtitles, step 1, and without step 2, go back through it again. This time, focus on short sentences or phrases within that scene. Pause the video right after a character says something interesting or useful, And then,
Say it out loud yourself.
exactly, repeat the dialogue out loud. And the key is trying to sound exactly like the character.
Copying everything. The pronunciation, the rhythm, the ups and downs of their voice.
That's the goal. Copy the pronunciation, the word connections, the rhythm, the intonation, even the emotion if you can. You've just heard it clearly, you've seen how it's spelled, now you try to physically produce it yourself. This step bridges the gap from passive understanding to active speaking.
Okay, let's try that. A quick shadowing practice for everyone listening. I'll say a common phrase from the source material. Listen to my rhythm and intonation, then pause mentally and repeat it out loud right after me. Ready? Here it is. I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Short pause.
Mm.
Nice. How did that feel, trying to match the sound?
It makes you pay attention differently, doesn't it?
It really does. So by combining these 3 steps, step 1, understand and connect sound text with English subtitles. Step 2, practice pure listening without subtitles. Step 3, actively produce the language through shadowing your transforming subtitles. They go from being just a way to follow the plot to becoming an active, integral part of your learning process.
It completely reframes their purpose, maximizing the learning potential of the time you spend watching. Okay, this is fantastic. We've covered choosing the right level of content. We've got a specific exercise for training our ears to understand fast speech, and now a strategy for using subtitles effectively. The big remaining piece of the puzzle is speaking. How can watching stuff actually help you speak English better? I feel like a skill you can only really improve by, well, talking to actual people.
That's a very logical thought.
Yeah.
And direct conversation practice is, of course, absolutely essential. You definitely need to talk to people.
Right.
But movies and TV shows offer some incredibly valuable resources and exercises for improving key aspects of your spoken English, even when you're practicing alone. Particularly things like your pronunciation, your fluency, the rhythm and intonation making you sound more natural. Our source material highlights 2 key exercises for this.
And the first one is, let me guess, shadowing.
You got it. Shadowing makes another appearance. We mentioned it as part of the subtitle strategy where you pause and repeat. For dedicated speaking practice, the technique is similar, but the focus or goal can be slightly different, often aiming for shadowing simultaneously with the speaker.
Whoa, okay. That sounds even more challenging, trying to say the words at the exact same time as the character on screen.
It is challenging, definitely. But it's incredibly effective for building fluency. The idea is, choose a short sentence, or again, maybe a 10-15-second clip you've already worked on, play it. And try your best to speak the lines along with the character, in real time, like you're their echo, or maybe singing along to a song.
So you're not waiting for them to finish the line, you're speaking with them, trying to stay perfectly in sync.
That's the ideal, yeah. It might take practice to get close. But the benefit here is huge for developing natural speed and rhythm. By forcing yourself to try and keep pace with a native speaker.
You can't pause to think or translate in your head.
Exactly. You're practicing speaking at a more natural tempo. You're actively mimicking how they connect their words, how their voice rises and falls naturally. Intonation, the stress patterns within sentences. It forces your mouth, your tongue, your vocal cords to make the correct movements and sounds in rapid succession, just like a native speaker does instinctively.
You're literally building the muscle memory for English speech patterns, physically training yourself to produce the sounds and rhythms correctly and quickly.
Precisely. It helps break those habits of maybe speaking too slowly or too deliberately or with unnatural pauses because you're mentally translating. It trains you to produce English sounds and rhythms more automatically, more fluently. It's honestly one of the fastest ways described to improve your pronunciation and gain confidence sounding more native-like in terms of pace and flow.
It's like intensive physical training for your speech organs, using the movie character as your coach. Okay, that's shadowing for fluency. What's the second speaking exercise from the source?
The second exercise is role play. This one is perhaps even more directly connected to developing conversational skills and natural expression.
Role play, like acting out scenes.
Kind of, yeah. Here's how it works. Find a scene in your show that has a conversation between 2 or more characters. A dialogue exchange. Watch it once or twice so you understand the context, who's saying what the situation is.
Okay, got the scene. Then what?
Then you choose one of the characters. You decide, okay, I'm going to be that character. Play the scene again, but this time, every time it's your chosen character's turn to speak, you pause the video.
And you say their line out loud.
Exactly. You deliver their line. So you're essentially having a conversation with the other characters in this scene. You hear character A speak, then you pause and deliver character B's line, your line. Then you unpause and hear character C respond, and so on.
So you're stepping into the conversation, taking on a role.
Yes. And the really important part here, the key difference from just reading lines, is to try and deliver your lines with the same tone, the same emotion, and the same speed as the original character in the show.
Ah, so it's not just about saying the words correctly.
No. Were they sounding angry when they said that line? Try to inject some anger into your voice. Were they excited? Sound excited? Were they asking a question curiously? Use that questioning intonation. Were they speaking quickly and casually or slowly and thoughtfully? Try to match that delivery style.
Wow. Okay, so this is fantastic practice for learning how to speak expressively in English and how to use tone and intonation naturally depending on the situation.
Absolutely. You're practicing delivering lines with the feeling and the vocal quality that's appropriate for the context. It helps you internalize how meaning is conveyed through tone of voice, through stress, through pitch changes in English, not just through the vocabulary and grammar. It builds confidence in using English for real communication, which includes expressing feelings, reacting appropriately, maybe persuading someone, telling a joke.
It really puts the language into a realistic social and emotional framework, even though you're just, talking back to your TV screen.
And it's fun. Plus, you can do the scene again and switch roles. Be the other character next time. Practice different lines, different emotions, different delivery styles. It's a really versatile way to get targeted speaking practice that mirrors real conversational dynamics.
Okay, let's try another quick interactive bit. Let's do the shadowing exercise again, but this time really focus on matching the feeling and the friendly, casual tone. Here's a common greeting from the source. Listen, and then repeat it right after me, trying to capture that welcoming vibe. Hey, long time no see.
Short pause.
Great.
Could you feel the difference when focusing on the emotion, too?
Yeah, it makes you think about more than just the sounds.
Exactly. So by actively engaging with the dialogue through these two methods, shadowing, focusing on rhythm, pronunciation, and simultaneous delivery for fluency, and role play, focusing on delivering lines with appropriate expression and context, you are genuinely turning passive watching into active speaking practice.
These techniques, if you use them regularly, the source suggests they can significantly boost not just your pronunciation, but your overall confidence and ability to speak English more naturally, more fluently, more expressively.
It gives you concrete things you can do to practice speaking, even when you don't have a live conversation partner available 24/7. You're effectively using the native speakers on your screen as your personal, on-demand language tutors and role-play partners.
Wow, okay. We have really covered a lot of ground today. It feels like we've gone from just watch movies to a whole structured methodology.
That was the goal. From choosing the right starting point based on your level, to very specific techniques for drilling your listening skills for fast speech, to smart ways to use subtitles, and now concrete exercises for practicing your speaking.
It's clear there's a much more systematic way to leverage the incredible resource that is movies and TV shows, going way beyond just casual passive viewing.
Definitely. And if you're one of those listeners who's felt that frustration, that feeling of being stuck or overwhelmed by fast, natural English, hopefully you now see that the problem likely wasn't you. It was maybe just the method or lack thereof.
And now you have a clear strategy drawn from our source material to turn that frustration into real, tangible progress.
Exactly. Shall we do a quick recap of the main takeaways?
Good idea. So just to summarize the key strategies we covered in this deep dive. First, we hammered home the importance of choosing content that's actually right for your level. Not too hard, not too easy.
That 50-70% comprehension sweet spot test.
Right. And we gave examples. Beginners might look at things like Toy Story, Friends, or even Peppa Pig, focusing on clarity and simplicity.
Intermediate learners could try things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Big Bang Theory, or reality shows like MasterChef, getting into more natural, relatable, but still manageable speech.
And advanced learners can push themselves with faster films like Inception, Complex News, or TED Talks, or dialogue-heavy dramas like Sherlock, embracing speed, complexity, and diversity of language.
Step 1. Choose wisely. Then second, we detailed that powerful 3-step listening exercise specifically designed to train your ear for fast, connected speech.
That cycle. Listen without subtitles first, just get the sound. Then listen with English subtitles, this is key, to see the words. And crucially, identify how they link and reduce spot the what I wanna instead of what do you want to?
See how going to becomes gonna, how sounds blend. That's the analysis phase.
And finally, listen without subtitles again to test if you can now recognize those patterns purely by sound, and repeat that cycle for the same short clip.
Third, we talked about using subtitles effectively, as a tool, not a crutch. The recommended method there was, watch a scene with English subtitles first to connect the sound and text, understand the content, and learn new vocab in context.
Then watch that same scene again but without subtitles for pure, focused listening practice.
And then use parts of that scene for shadowing, pausing, and repeating lines out loud, copying the native speaker's pronunciation and rhythm.
And fourth, we just covered how to improve your actual speaking skills using movies and shows, 2 main exercises.
Shadowing again, but often aiming to speak simultaneously with the character to really nail the fluency, rhythm, and pronunciation patterns, building that muscle memory.
And role play. Choosing a character, pausing the scene, and delivering their lines yourself, focusing on matching their tone, emotion, and expressive delivery for the situation.
Using the actors as your personal speaking coaches.
Absolutely. Now, implementing these techniques, it definitely takes a bit more conscious effort than just hitting play and zoning out.
It does require active engagement.
But the potential payoff in terms of genuinely improving your listening comprehension, your pronunciation, your fluency, and your speaking confidence, it seems immense.
It's about transforming entertainment time into productive, effective learning time, making it count.
All right then. Are you, our listeners, ready for a challenge? Let's put one of these powerful techniques into practice right now, or maybe right after this deep dive finishes.
We've got a specific, actionable task for you, drawn straight from the source material's recommendations.
Okay, here it is. Your challenge for today. Step 1. Go find a short clip from a movie or TV show you enjoy or one you think might be at the right level for you. Aim for something just 10 to 15 seconds long. Pick a clip that has some interesting dialogue. Maybe it's funny, maybe it's emotional, maybe it's just a character saying something in a way that sounds cool or challenging to you.
Step 2. Apply that 3-step listening exercise we detailed to that specific 10-15-second clip. Listen to it 3 times through. First time without any subtitles. Second time with English subtitles turned on. Third time without subtitles again. And really pay attention during that second listen. How are the words connecting? Can you spot any reductions like wanna or gonna or wadaya or sounds blending together? Make a mental note.
Step 3. From that same short clip, choose just one sentence that a character says. Pause the video right after they say it and then shadow that sentence. Say it out loud yourself. Try your absolute best to copy the original speaker's pronunciation, their rhythm, their intonation, their speed. Do it a few times. Try to get closer each time.
And we would genuinely love to hear how this challenge goes for you. We're curious, what TV show or movie did you choose for your clip? What was the sentence you decided to shadow?
Yeah, and tell us, what felt like the hardest part of that little exercise for you? Was it trying to understand the clip initially without subs? Was it noticing the connected speech patterns? Or was it the shadowing part, trying to actually match the pronunciation and rhythm out loud?
Also, did you happen to notice or learn any interesting new words or expressions just by focusing so intensely on that tiny 10-15-second segment? Sometimes slowing down and focusing reveals a lot.
Let us know your experience. Give the challenge a try and see how it feels. It's about taking that first step towards active learning with media.
Definitely. So now that you've got a really structured approach, hopefully, for improving your listening and speaking, using things you probably already watch, like movies and TV, let's look ahead briefly to another skill area that many, many English learners find particularly daunting.
Oh, I have a feeling I know what this is. Phone calls.
You guessed it. Phone calls in English.
They can be so stressful. You lose all the visual information, right? You can't see the other person's face for clues. You can't see their gestures, their body language. It's just voice.
Precisely. And because you lose those visual cues, misunderstandings feel much more likely. Knowing how to navigate the entire conversation purely through listening carefully and speaking clearly requires a specific set of phrases and strategies. It feels very different, much higher pressure for many people than talking face-to-face.
Yeah, absolutely. The silence feels louder on the phone, too.
It does. That's why our very next deep dive is going to focus entirely on helping you master phone conversations in English.
Okay, that sounds incredibly useful. What will we cover?
We'll be drawing on our source material again to give you really practical tools. We're planning to cover things like how to start and end phone calls naturally and politely in different situations. We'll give you lots of useful, ready-to-use phrases for common tasks like making appointments, asking for information, checking details, or leaving clear messages.
And crucially, how to handle problems, like when you don't understand.
Exactly. We'll provide step-by-step advice and phrases for dealing with those moments when you inevitably don't catch something, or when you need the other person to repeat themselves or speak more slowly or clarify what they mean, all within the context of a phone call.
That sounds like a deep dive nobody who gets nervous about phone calls should miss.
We hope it'll be really helpful. So make sure you're following or subscribed so you catch that next deep dive. The title will be How to Handle Phone Calls in English.
Looking forward to that one.
And as we wrap up today's discussion on learning with movies and TV, just remember that core message again. Learning English doesn't have to be solely about textbooks and grammar exercises. It really can be fun. It can be engaging.
And it can be integrated into activities you already enjoy, like settling down to watch a good show.
With the strategies and techniques we've unpacked today, based on our source material, you really do have the power now to turn that screen time into serious, measurable progress in your English skills.
So our final thought is, go pick a show, maybe try that challenge we set, and start watching actively and strategically today.
Yes, keep listening for those connections, keep practicing shadowing out loud, and most importantly, enjoy the process of improving your English with every scene you watch.
Fantastic. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you for the next deep dive.